Hello class, so this will be our video on VPC and subnets, gateways, etc. So in this lab, we'll be configuring our own VPC. We'll attach that interface to a instance and we'll run that instance in the virtual private cloud. So we'll kind of partition our own little slice of the AWS cloud. Great for access control, partitioning public and private resources, just like we discussed during the lecture. All right, so if we're gonna set up our VPC, we gotta go to the VPC service. Let's go to VPC. So make sure you're following along with your lab open. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new VPC. So we're gonna hit create VPC. Of course, you can set up the subnet, the gateways all together at once. Amazon makes that easy for you, but just for the sake of practice, we're gonna do VPC only. And then we're going to do a name for that VPC. It's going to be first name, last name, and then VPC. Uppercase, lowercase is fine. And then we're going to set up this CIDR block. So what is the CIDR block? What are we talking about here? CIDR is classless interdomain routing, so fancy term. It's the IP values in a VPC and its subnet. So it's the range of IP addresses that can be assigned to the VPC. So when I type in this value right here, I'm actually defining, for example, if I said, oh, I'm going to let customers 1 through 100 in, or customers with the name starting with letter A to letter F into the coffee shop. Well, this is what this is doing. It's saying the range of IP addresses in which this VPC will operate. As we know, IP addresses, right? Those are the actual like phone numbers or locations of web resources on the internet. Typically, we navigate to like Amazon.com, but really this is an IP address in the way that clients and server computers read them. All right, so I know that was a little bit information fire hose. Just know, not really required content for the class. Definitely a deeper dive that you can take on there. But yeah, we're just saying, hey, these are the IP addresses that this VPC is going to use. But again, outside the scope of the class, leave everything else as default. There's tenancy. We discussed that briefly in the other class. Remember, dedicated is so that the hardware is just for your particular compute resources. Typical when you need to satisfy some licensing requirements or you're dealing with sensitive data. Anyways, again, extra information. All you need to know, we're setting up our VPC and then we set up the ranges here. All right, so everything else is default. We're going to hit create VPC, and just like that, we've configured a virtual private cloud. But, you know, without the other components, it's not going to be very useful. So next up, we have to create some subnets. So you're going to create 2 subnets. I'm just going to create one here. And notice here, it's going to ask you to associate it to a VPC. You're going to name your subnet. I'm going to call this public subnet. You can set the availability zone. We're going to put no preference, just so that we don't run into any payment issues. We're trying to keep everything free, right? And just like we defined a range for the bigger VPC, the smaller subnet also needs a range. So this range actually falls under this one. Again, you kind of have to know a lot more about IP addresses and these domain ranges, but outside the scope of this class, just know these are the values you're going to use. So that one just was populated from the VPC. This one we just typed in for our subnet. So this is like a smaller piece of this range, so smaller range inside of that range. All right, we're going to create our subnet. Make sure you create the private one as well. So one more thing, we're going to do internet gateways. One more component. We also will do route tables, which I know we didn't cover in class, but I'll kind of briefly discuss what they do. All right, so we're going to create an internet gateway. We're going to call it main gateway. Notice the kind of the casing that they use. It's all lowercase, separated by dashes. All right, so we're going to create our internet gateway, and we got to attach it to the VPC. So you could navigate to your internet gateway, select it. We already have a nice little green button here. I'm just going to click attach to VPC and select the one that I already set up. All right, there you go. And notice on that previous page, it did say CLI, just showing you that all the things I'm clicking on here, I could create a script for. So I can automatically do this through some commands if I learn my way through the AWS CLI. But yeah, good old dashboard, right? AWS dashboard is good for us learning about AWS and how to provision resources. All right, and remember, every click I'm doing is an API call to AWS. So that's how they talk to each other, right? That's how my computer is talking to the AWS cloud infrastructure. All right, so I created my gateway, I attached it, and then yeah, I chose the VPC I created and confirmed the attachment. So now I'm gonna create a route table. So what the heck is a route table? So route table in a VPC is a set of rules that determine how network traffic is directed within the VPC. It tells the VPC where to send traffic based on the destination IP address. So it's basically going to tell you which IP addresses to use, for example, on the gateway. So it controls traffic flow between subnets and external networks, right? It contains routes, specifying a destination and a target. So specifically, right, the component we're configuring with the route tables is actually the gateway. So we're going to create a route table. We're going to name it main route. I think that was it. Yeah, main table, actually. Main table. For VPC, I'm going to put the one I created. I'm going to hit create route table. I haven't actually defined any routes. I haven't actually connected the internet gateway, right? Or define the internet gateway's route. So I'm going to go to internet gateway. I'm going to choose this IP. This is basically wide open. And then I'm going to choose my gateway that I set up. So make sure you choose these values. And then we're going to hit save changes. And there you go. The gateway has a route set up. We attached it to the VPC. Let's make sure that our route table. So you can just click on this link right here. Let's make sure that explicitly we associate the subnets so that the subnets are connected to our gateway and route table. So we're going to hit edit and make sure that both the public and the private subnets are associated, and then you'll save those associations. And then last but not least, we're going to actually run an instance on this VPC. All right, so once you've configured your VPC, last but not least, we're going to launch an EC2 instance associated with this VPC that'll run on the VPC. So we're going to go to EC2. Sorry, screen's a little bit laggy. We're going to launch an instance. There we go. So you can follow the same instructions as Lab 1. You can give it a different name. Totally up to you. Everything's going to be identical except for the VPC. So you're going to hit edit on network settings. Instead of having the default VPC, you're going to select the one we created, and notice the subnets are already associated. You should have more than one subnet, right? And there you go. You can go with the default security group. We're not going to be configuring that for stateful packet filtering. But that is where you would do that. And then once you're done, you're just going to launch the instance. Yeah, let me do the actual key and then the name. Let's say EC2 on my VPC. No naming requirements, right? For that part. But yeah, if you click on this link, it'll take you to this specific EC2 instance. Or it'll take you to the list of instances, filter it. Click on that link on instance ID. This will be the best place to screenshot the instance summary, right? And there it is. You can see has my public subnet, my VPC. Of course, yours will also have the private subnet um, associated with it. As long as you did the screenshots in the previous ones, right, I will give you credit. And then make sure you do a screenshot of this one. So I'll add that detail for a good place. So navigate to the VPC dashboard, delete your VPC. Oh, that's the cleanup. So yeah, make sure you do cleanup after this. Stop your instance. You could delete the VPC as well, just to be safe so that y'all don't get charged. And then navigate to the instance summary to see all of the settings, or we'll say all the configurations we made, including the VPC we set for our new instance. All right, there we go. So this will be the last screenshot you'll need. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And again, although we're not actually running any apps just yet, I do have the goal of y'all deploying a website. I'm trying to cook up a cool web file that you can use and interact with potentially, but that'll be for later weeks. But yeah, you will actually host some resources on these instances very soon. But that'll be for a future lab. So for now, we're just getting to learn the instance, the dashboard, right? And then now we learned a little bit of networking so that we can have our own little slice of the AWS cloud in our VPC, and then slice that even further, right, into our subnets. Of course, you need a gateway, right, to make that connection from the internet to our VPC. So we also configure that for our network interface. That's it for this video. And like I said before, right, if you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out.